I never believed that the word space could hurt until the night he said it. His voice was calm, his eyes tired, and his smile just gone. We were sitting in his dorm room surrounded by empty pizza boxes and the scent of coffee that had gone cold. He said he needed space to think, to breathe, to focus on himself. I nodded, because that is what you do when someone you love says they need space. You pretend you understand, even when every part of you feels like it is breaking. I went back to my dorm that night and stared at my phone, waiting for a text that never came. I told myself he just needed time, maybe a day or two, maybe a week. But deep down, something felt wrong. The silence didn't feel like healing, it felt like a goodbye. Pretending not to care in front of my friends was easy until they started asking questions. Where is he? Why isn't he walking you to class anymore? And all I could do was smile and say he is busy, but inside I could feel the distance growing, like a wall that was too high to climb. 2 weeks passed before I saw him again on campus. He was walking with someone else, a girl from his psychology class. She laughed at something he said, and I felt my chest tighten. I told myself it was fine. I trusted him. I had to trust him. But that night, when I opened social media, I saw a photo of them at a coffee shop, his hand resting too close to hers. The caption said, "Study night," and my heart shattered into pieces. I tried to ignore it, but the truth has a way of clawing through denial. A few days later, I decided to stop by his dorm, just to talk, just to understand. His roommate opened the door. His name was Ryan. He looked surprised to see me and hesitated before letting me in. His eyes said more than words could. I asked if he was there. Ryan shook his head and said he went out with her. I didn't need to ask who she was. But then Ryan looked at me and said something that made my knees weak. He said he didn't just need space, he needed freedom. He said he had been seeing her even before he asked me for space. He said he didn't want me to find out, but he was tired of pretending. I felt my world tilt. It was like the air disappeared, and I was standing in the middle of nothing. I thanked Ryan and walked out before he could say more. The hallway felt longer than ever. My legs felt heavy. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. Only silence. Heavy, painful silence. Later that night, I got a text from him saying, "I hope you are okay. Maybe we can talk soon." I stared at it for minutes, maybe hours. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him why, but I didn't. Instead, I typed, "I'm fine," and deleted it before sending. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, trying to remember what it felt like to breathe freely before love turned into a ghost that haunted every thought I had. The next morning, I woke up feeling empty, the kind of empty that no amount of sleep or coffee could fix. Campus looked the same, but everything felt different. I walked past the bench where we used to sit every morning before class, and I felt a cold ache run through me. I thought about deleting his number, but my fingers couldn't do it because part of me still wanted him to explain, still wanted to believe that maybe Ryan was wrong. Maybe there was another reason, but deep down, I knew there wasn't. When trust cracks, it doesn't break loud, it breaks quiet like glass under pressure, and you only notice when it's too late. I avoided the places we used to go. I avoided our favorite cafe and the library corner where he always made me laugh. But avoiding memories didn't make the pain go away. It only made the silence louder. 3 days later, Ryan texted me saying he needed to tell me something. I didn't want to meet him, but he insisted. He said it was important, so I agreed. We met at the small park behind the dorms. The air was cold, and the wind carried the sound of leaves crunching underfoot. He looked nervous, his hands in his pockets and his eyes shifting everywhere but mine. He said he shouldn't be telling me this, but he couldn't keep quiet anymore. He said my boyfriend had been lying for months, that the girl wasn't just another student, she was his ex from high school, and they had started seeing each other again before the semester even began. My mind went blank. I could feel my pulse in my ears. He said he found out because he walked in on them one night in their room together, and that was why he looked so uncomfortable the last time I was there. My body felt like it was made of stone. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at the ground and nodded, like I had expected it all along. Ryan apologized. He said he hated watching me get hurt. I thanked him and walked away, but every step felt heavier than the last. When I got back to my dorm, my roommate asked what was wrong. I said nothing because how do you say you're explain that the person you loved the most turned your whole world into a lie. I sat on my bed, staring at the photo on my wall of us from last summer, smiling, happy, carefree. I took it down and put it in a drawer, but it didn't help. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how everything had changed, how someone could look you in the eyes, say they loved you, and still betray you, like it meant nothing. I realized then that love without honesty isn't love at all. It's just a story you tell yourself to feel safe. The next week, I saw him again. He tried to smile when he saw me, but his eyes looked guilty. He said he wanted to talk, but I walked past him without a word. He followed me, saying I misunderstood everything, but I didn't stop because I didn't need another lie. Later that night, he posted a photo with her, and the caption said, "New beginnings." It felt like a knife twisting deeper, but something inside me finally went still. Maybe because I knew it was over for good. Maybe because pain has a way of burning until it leaves nothing but numbness. For days, I stayed quiet. I went to class, I laughed with friends, but it all felt fake, like I was watching someone else live my life. Then one evening, Ryan messaged again. He said there was one more thing I needed to know. He said she wasn't who she claimed to be, and that something about her didn't add up. I didn't understand what he meant, but the way he wrote it made my stomach twist. He said he couldn't explain everything yet, but that I should be careful. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying Ryan's words over and over. She wasn't who she claimed to be. I kept asking myself what that meant. Maybe he was just trying to protect me. Or maybe he knew something terrible. I woke up early and walked across campus. The air felt colder than usual. Maybe it was just me. I couldn't focus in class. The professor's voice faded into background noise. My mind was stuck on one thing. Who was she really? After class, I went to the library and looked her up on social media. Everything looked too perfect, like it was curated for someone to believe a story that wasn't real. Every post was polished, every smile too bright, every caption trying too hard to sound genuine. I scrolled deeper until I found something strange. An old photo tagged by someone else. It was from another college in another state. Her name was different, and she looked the same, just with darker hair. I froze, staring at the screen. I clicked the profile of the person who tagged her and saw more photos of her under a completely different name. My heart started racing. I took screenshots without even knowing why. When I tried to show Ryan later that night, he didn't answer his phone. I thought maybe he was busy, but hours passed and nothing. He usually replied fast. The next morning, I went to his dorm, but his door was locked. I knocked, no answer. Then I noticed the door next to his was slightly open. I pushed it, and his roommate said Ryan left early for home. He didn't even tell anyone he was going. The unease in my chest grew heavier by the hour. Later that evening, my ex texted me out of nowhere, asking if we could meet to talk. I ignored it at first, but then I remembered what Ryan said. I felt like I needed to see his face and hear the truth, so I agreed to meet at the small cafe off campus. When I got there, he was already sitting by the window. He looked nervous, his hands tapping the table. He said he wanted to clear things up. I sat down and said nothing, just stared. He started talking about how he didn't mean to hurt me, how things got complicated, how he never planned for it to happen. But when I mentioned her name, his entire expression changed, like he wasn't expecting me to bring her up. He asked what I knew, and I said I knew enough. He went silent for a few seconds, then whispered that I should stay away from her. He said she wasn't what she seemed to be. I asked what that meant, but he just shook his head and said, "Please just trust me one last time." Before I could ask more, he left. I sat there confused, angry, scared. Everything felt wrong. That night, I couldn't get his words out of my mind. I started digging deeper, searching her other name online. I found an old news article from 3 years ago. It mentioned a girl with that name who was involved in an incident at another university. It didn't give details, just said she left suddenly after an unspecified incident. The photo was blurry, but it was definitely her. I felt sick to my stomach. What kind of person was she, and why was she here now, pretending to be someone else? I tried calling Ryan again, but still no answer. Days passed and no one had heard from him. It was like he disappeared. I went to campus security. They said maybe he just went home, but his things were still in his room. Something didn't feel right. One night, while walking back to my dorm, I saw her standing outside near the fountain, her face half lit by the campus lights. She smiled when she saw me, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was like she knew I was starting to figure things out. She walked closer and said, "It's funny how people disappear around here, isn't it?" My heart pounded. I wanted to ask her what she meant, but my voice wouldn't come out. She just turned and walked away, leaving me standing there shaking in the cold night air. The next morning, the campus felt different, quieter, colder. Even though the sun was out, the air felt heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me everywhere I went. I saw glimpses of her, like shadows just out of reach, near the library, near the dining hall, once even outside my dorm window. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking it, but my gut said otherwise. I went back to Ryan's dorm to see if maybe he had returned. His door was still locked, but this time I pushed harder, and it opened. Inside, the room looked untouched. His backpack still on the chair, his notebook open on the desk like he'd left in the middle of writing something. I walked closer and saw a note, half torn, stuck under his keyboard. It only said, "She knows," and nothing else. I felt a chill run down my spine. I grabbed the note and left quickly, my hands shaking the whole way back to my room. I didn't know who to tell or what to do. When I tried to call my ex again, his phone was disconnected. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing noises in the hallway, faint footsteps, whispers, maybe just my mind, but it felt real. Around midnight, there was a soft knock on my door. I froze. My roommate was asleep. I opened the door slowly, and no one was there. But on the floor was an envelope with my name written on it. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, sitting at the cafe the night I met my ex. But the picture was taken from outside, through the window. I dropped it, my heart racing. Someone was watching me, and they wanted me to know. I didn't go to class the next day. I stayed in my dorm, trying to think what to do. I wanted to go home, but I felt trapped. I decided to talk to campus security again. They listened, but their faces said they didn't believe me. One of them even smiled and said, "Maybe it's just a prank. Students do weird things around finals." I left angry and scared. I went straight to the library and started digging again. About the girl with the other name, I found another article. This one mentioned a roommate from her old school who had gone missing around the same time she left. It didn't say much, but it made everything click. My stomach twisted. I knew then that whatever she was hiding, it was worse than I imagined. When I walked back outside, she was there waiting by the fountain again. Like before, her eyes locked on mine. She said, "You should stop looking into things you don't understand." And then she smiled again, that same unsettling smile. I ran back to my dorm, locked the door, and sat against it trying to catch my breath. Hours passed and I didn't move. At some point, I must have fallen asleep because when I opened my eyes, it was morning, and there was another envelope slipped under my door. This time, no name, just a single paper inside. It said, "You should have listened." I packed a bag that morning and decided to leave campus. I called my parents, said I wasn't feeling well and needed a break. They didn't ask much, just told me to come home. I booked a bus ticket for that evening, but before I could leave, I got a text from an unknown number. It said Ryan wanted me to meet him one last time behind the old gym. I hesitated. Maybe it was real. Maybe he came back. Maybe he could explain everything. But deep down, I knew something was off. I went anyway because curiosity always wins. I walked across campus, the sun already setting, the air turning colder. When I reached the back of the gym, no one was there, just silence. Then I heard footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate. When I turned around, she was standing there. She said, "He is not coming." I asked where he was, but she didn't answer. She just smiled and said, "Some people don't know when to stop digging." Then she walked away, disappearing into the trees like smoke. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night. My heart wouldn't stop racing. I kept hearing her voice echoing in my head. "Some people don't know when to stop digging." It played over and over like a warning or maybe a threat. I wanted to believe Ryan was safe, that this was all a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew I would never see him again. I left the campus early morning, the sky still dark, my suitcase dragging behind me, the streets empty. When I got to the bus station, I felt like every sound was amplified. Footsteps, whispers, the click of my phone. I sat on a bench waiting for the bus when a man in a dark jacket sat beside me. He didn't look at me, just said softly, "You were supposed to stop." Then he got up and walked away, leaving a small envelope behind. My chest tightened. I picked it up. Inside was a photo of me and Ryan on our first day together, smiling, happy, unaware, and written on the back was the same handwriting from before. It said, "You never really knew him." I felt like the ground dropped from under me. I couldn't breathe. The bus came. I got on and sat by the window as the city faded behind me. I told myself it was over. I would go home, start fresh, forget everything. But then my phone buzzed. One new message. No name, just an image. I opened it and froze. It was Ryan, sitting in the passenger seat of a car beside her, his eyes empty, his face pale, like he wasn't really there. The picture was time-stamped just 10 minutes ago. My whole body went cold. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I watched the road stretch ahead, endless and gray, like there was no escape. I tried calling the number, but it was disconnected. Again, I felt trapped in a nightmare that wouldn't end. Hours later, when I reached my parents' house, I ran inside, locked the door, and collapsed on the couch. They were confused, asked what happened, but I couldn't tell them. Not yet. I just said I needed rest. That night, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was the same number. I hesitated, but answered. This time, no one spoke, just the faint sound of waves and a woman laughing softly, before the line went dead. I dropped the phone, my hands shaking. I knew that sound. It was from the cruise where Ryan said he needed space, the one he supposedly never went on. I opened my laptop and searched again for his name and hers, but every article, every post was gone, erased, like they never existed. Days turned into weeks. I stayed home, trying to forget, but sometimes I would see flashes out of the corner of my eye. A reflection that didn't match my movements, a voice whispering my name at night. One evening, I got a package. No sender, no return address. Inside was a cruise ticket, one-way, departure in 2 days. The destination? The same place Ryan had gone, the same place my nightmares kept taking me. I don't know why, but I felt drawn to it. Maybe for answers, maybe for closure. I told my parents I needed time alone, and they didn't question it. They thought it was about heartbreak, but it was more than that. I boarded the ship 2 days later, the ocean calm, the air still. I walked through the corridors, every sound echoing, every face unfamiliar, until I saw her standing by the railing, smiling at me. She said, "Welcome back," like she had been waiting. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. She reached out and whispered, "He's waiting for you." The next thing I remember is darkness, the sound of waves crashing and someone calling my name. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the deck, alone, the ship completely empty, no sound, no light, no people, just the endless sea. I stood up, disoriented, and looked down at the water. There was a reflection staring back, but it wasn't mine. It was hers, and she was smiling. I screamed, but no one heard me, because there was no one left to hear. Maybe there never was. The ship started moving faster, the wind picking up. I tried to find an exit, but every door led back to the same place, the same railing, the same dark water below. And then I heard it again. Ryan's voice, faint but clear, saying, "You should have never come back." Now when I wake up, I don't know where I am. Sometimes it's the dorm, sometimes it's the ship, sometimes it's nowhere. But I can still hear the waves and the laughter. I think I became part of the story that never ends. I think that's what she wanted all along, to pull me into her world, to make me disappear like him. They said he needed space. Maybe he really found it, just not in the way I thought. And if you ever get a message from someone saying they need space, don't follow them, don't dig, don't board the ship. Because once you do, there's no coming back.